All right, guys, welcome back to the All Gains podcast. Let's get into it. All right, so let's have the guests introduce themselves.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name's Alexander Ragsdale. Nice to be out here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Who are you? What do you do? What's going on? Brings you here?
I do a little bit of everything. You can call me a Renaissance man, but typically I like to, in my arts, I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I enjoy playing guitar, harp, and I do dabble in other arts, though visual, but
Harp is cool. That's actually really interesting. I've never actually met anyone who's like played harp.
When I have come publicly and performed, a lot of people mention the same exact thing. They're like, we've never heard anybody play a harp. We've never seen anybody play a harp. They've heard harp music, but I've noticed for a majority of the people I've performed to, they couldn't believe it just because it's not something you see every day.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you kind of look like Kurt Cobain. That's why you have like the Kurt Cobain look, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I get that a few times a week at least.
Good. Just make sure you talk into the mic, by the way, like closer to it.
And so, is there anything else that you do?
Man, I own my own recycling business.
That's cool.
I enjoy that.
The grind is real.
I drive an awful lot, I'll tell you. I'm working on becoming a commercial driver right now, so I'll be adventuring all through the country, I imagine, sometime soon.
A traveler.
There'll be plenty of wonderful adventures to come.
Good. We love that. Love that shit.
How about you, man? What we got?
I am Don Krypton. I like how he said that. Bit of a Renaissance man, a jack of all trades, do a little bit of everything. So
I love your name, by the way, man. Don Krypton. What a fucking name, man. What a super.
Well, when we were trying to get you on, he's like, "Yeah, Don Krypton." I was like,
Superman's arch nemesis, man. We got it.
Listen, if anybody thinks that they are a Superman, I take them down immediately. That's kind of where that comes from. So
let's do it.
It is what it is.
I like that shit. Super villain vibes.
There you go. Poet. I believe the new term that was brought was pomedian. That's the thing.
Oh, is that a new thing?
I think that's the thing now.
I haven't heard that yet. That is hilarious, though.
Poet,
pretty comic, I'd say, right?
There you go. Poet, pomedian, author of the book Illogical. I just put that out last November. Awesome. My first book, so that's awesome. I also my day job, I work in IT. So I deal with computers. I do a little bit of everything as well. So that's
tell us about the process about writing an actual book. I want to know about that.
Oh, man. First of all, it's obviously getting the material. Just poetry in general, trying to get all of everything that you have to put it out, and then putting it into categories or putting it into subject matter. So as far as getting a book concerned, the initial stuff that goes in the book is the stuff that you got to work on first. After that, me personally, I did self-publishing, so I went through the website Lulu. So I was able to put my book together. My sister made my cover, trying to get a little bit of everything else in there, like the table of contents, blah blah blah, just to format on how to make a book. Put it all together in Lulu, and I believe probably that last part of, like, the first part of getting all the content took about 2 years, and then the last part of putting the actual book together took about 2 years. Now that I know how to do it, I probably could put out another one like that, but doing the first one is definitely an experience.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, Don, that was really insightful because I'm planning on putting out a small chapbook within the next few weeks myself, and
nice.
Also self-publishing it. And Don's book is really good, actually. I purchased it a few weeks back and I read through it.
I'll have to pick that up.
Yeah, I would recommend it to to anybody out there.
Link in the description, guys. By the way, if you want to check out,
we'll put
Don's
that in
book.
the description.
Absolutely.
I actually put out I wouldn't call it like a book. I guess it's a chat book, but I self-published actually something through Poetizer. I don't even know if that's actually technically a thing, but it's an app on the phone that you can self-publish your stuff. And I took a whole bunch of my old poems because when Damien did the Poetry in the Port back in the day when he first started it, I was in the open mic crowd a lot, and I had a lot of like old poems. Well, they weren't old at the time, but they were poems at the time, and I would read them, and then I kind of forgot about them because it was during a time that was not the greatest time. And so once I am now better and I found them again, I was like, I really wanted to put these out back then. I was like, I'm just gonna throw them all together now because, and how Poetizer does it is just like, oh yeah, you have these poems, yeah, just put them in this database here, and then you just put them in whichever order you want, and then it just does everything else for you. I'm like, oh, cool, okay. But the Lulu, the publishing for Lulu, how was the process? Like, did they help you a lot with like specific things? Did they tell you, like, did they give you any certain advice to how to put your book together? Did they give you any advice of marketing wise or anything like that?
For the most part, they do give you, when you're getting into the process of making the book, they tell you guidelines. So if you want your book to be a specific size, they'll tell you the exact dimensions you need for the book cover. They'll tell you how many, if you have a certain amount of pages, you'll need this amount of artwork, or you'll need this amount of, binding. So it's a little confusing for someone who hasn't done it before.
Yeah.
But once you start understanding what's going on, obviously, if you have 1 million pages, your binding is going to be this big, and your cover is going to needs to be a certain size. So they give you kind of the framework for it. You have to put your own information in there.
Yeah.
As far as marketing goes, they do give you the option of going through either the Amazon route, putting it putting it everywhere. Or you can do more self-published and doing it yourself. So personally, my book is available only on evoluculture.com and through me. So if you want to get my book, www.evoluculture.com. That's where you get it from.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to pick that up. I have a whole stack of chat books over there that that I've gotten from back in the day, from like Charles Joseph, Damien. Even Shaman, I have Shaman's book over there too.
Peach Milk, that was a very good one.
I want to know how you guys got into poetry. So Alex, like, what got you into starting to write, and eventually what brought you to actually start going on stage and be featured? Like, how did that transpire and progress?
Well, I mean, as I like to say, we've all been writing most of our lives, and I mean, I've been writing since I was 5. Your name, but as we get older, we decide we want to write, and throughout life I found that I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed learning other languages too, but I enjoyed writing poetry. I enjoy writing fiction. I enjoyed writing essays. I enjoyed just structuring things with my words and being able to communicate effectively a message. And that's really one of the most important things about writing, is being able to communicate your message the way that you want to your reader. Throughout high school, I wrote a lot of poems and I read a lot of books. And then going into my young adult life, studying the sciences, I still continued to write, but I never performed anything in front of anybody. I did get published in one of my high school's journals, but that was just me putting out some of my poetry to my local community at the high school. It wasn't until Brew Coffee became a thing, the Brew Coffee House, and that the scene, the New Jersey Poetry Renaissance, became well more active in the last year, that I started going out to open mics. The Brew being, the one I started performing at, and then I just kept coming back, and I was always nervous. We're always nervous when we get up in front of people. Especially when you're like displaying your art, and you want to know how people are going to react to that, and you hope people will enjoy it, of of course. You're not putting things out in the world that you want to be bad. So naturally, we like to perform our art in a way where other people do enjoy it and perceive our message. And I did enjoy doing that, and I still do a lot. I feel like the last 6 to 8 months that I've been doing that, it's been a wonderful experience for me. Been going to a lot of the open mics in the community. It's great to see the community that is there too. That's been a big reason why I've, continued to contribute as much as I have and try to attend as much as I have been. It's a wonderful thing to see this collective of artists that's happening, and it's self-maintained, and it really is beautiful and inspiring, and it makes me want to continue to write and continue to share my poetry, and I'm just happy to be here, man.
That's a great way to look at life, I think.
Yeah.
You find something you're really passionate about, and then you just go full force into it, and it brings you into an entire new universe, something that actually makes you want to get up in the morning. It actually makes you want to pursue something, because I think the problem with the average person is that they don't have something to look forward to. They don't have a mission that they're trying to get into. They don't have something that they want to accomplish, a goal maybe. They don't have something to write because they simply don't have they can't think of something to put their mind on, something to, because everyone has a personality and everyone has something to bring to the world. A lot of people just don't know how to bring their thoughts together collectively and put it out into the world, or they're extremely nervous to do that, and they hold themselves back. The main problem is that people hold themselves back from putting themselves out in the world, and due to that, we have a lot of people in the world right now who feel like they don't have a voice because they don't have, whether it be the courage, the confidence, or they just don't have the simple idea to put themselves out there. When if everyone did put themselves out there with their hidden potential, we would have a much different world. If everyone actually put their potential out into the world, that way people could really hear some interesting thoughts. But a lot of people, even especially like the quiet person in the back of the classroom that you'd never know, they have an extremely brilliant mind, but you're never going to know because they never open their mouth to the public. And that's why something like this is kind of special, because the person in the back of the class can now go up to the front of the class and give some insight into the world and a new perspective that others might not have known, right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful outlet. It really is. Especially with the volume of attendance that we've seen. Like, there's new people coming in all the time, and it's great. In regards to what you're saying, though, if you never swing the bat, you're never going to hit the ball, and that's
a lot of people don't know how to pick up the bat is the problem, right?
Hey, sometimes it's hard, man.
Yeah. Sometimes people need maybe either a mentor or guidance from powers that be, which could be take the form of many different things. Simple. Sometimes you could find a sign somewhere, and then it gives you that click that like, oh, this is what I have to do. I must attack. It's that hunter mentality. Like, now I know what I must do, kind of thing, and you know the path, and then you start walking and see where it leads to.
Yeah, local scene has a lot of guidance for that too, and a lot of support. Everybody is very supporting of each other's art. Encouraging people to get up, and share their message with us, and that's great, because those people that didn't feel like they could do that before now have a community around them that says, "Hey, get the hell up here. We want to hear what you have to say."
Exactly, and it's actually encouraged to get someone off their seat and get them into the front of the thing without fear of judgment, with a positive look on things, like, oh, I could actually say this and people are actually going to listen to me, kind of thing, where because a lot of people feel like they're going to be booed. They feel like they're not going to be heard, which is why they don't take the first step to actually get up to the microphone anyway, because they feel like if they do go up, they're not going to be listened to and they might get rejected. It's also a fear of rejection as well. So it's all about courage and being in a place where you can rise up and then explore your true self and put it out there, and then you'll never know who's going to notice you, recognize you, and take you in, and then you make a new friend or connection or networking opportunity. You just never really know, right? Unless you go, unless you try, unless you see, unless you have an open mind to attack, right?
That's for sure.
How about you, Don? What got you into the whole space? What got you into poetry? How'd you end up going from that guy to that guy?
I became
I love the way you worded it.
Right. Oh, no, that was awesome. I would say same way with Alex here. We've been writing all our lives, honestly. I used to write short stories back when I was middle school. Took up a little bit of rapping, nothing too crazy. There's a couple things on Bandcamp, but you know, I went through the whole process of getting to a point where I actually made a lot of the content that was in this book. So when that period ended, I was looking for some ways to entertain myself, and I got into the poetry scene more as an enjoyer to begin with. My journey started up in Newark at the Cry Out Cave, Evolution Dope and Mic. And that was around, I'd say, January, February 2020. By accident, I got chose to play a game for Evolu Culture, and they literally, all right, you win, pick a prize. My game was to be like a social person, to actually go out and start talking to people, network. And the other person was to write a poem. They were supposed to give us the prizes, but they made a mistake of giving us the choice of picking one. The person who wrote the poem ended up picking the wine bottle, who was supposed to go to the social person who was supposed to meet somebody that night. I ended up picking up the poetry, the book, and they gave me a book and a bunch of pens. And I still have that book too. And I mentioned that I would guarantee that I would be on the next Evolution Dope and Mic. The problem is, like I said, that was February 2020. So the next show ended up being scrapped because of the pandemic. But I did start writing in that book. I started posting things on Instagram, just a few things here and there, anything I wrote down, anything I felt in my soul, and I just kept going. When the George Floyd incident happened, there were a few people in the Newark community that came together. I'm from Elizabeth, so I was a bit of an outsider, but I, felt it in my soul to have to join in. Came up with the Newark Poetry Council, and we did literally a poetry protest, and that was actually my first performance at the poetry protest. It was on Halsey Street and Bria Nicole Knight Way. And that was my first performance, and nobody would know that because I do have like public speaking experience. So the stage isn't necessarily the frightening part, but the content that I was giving was the frightening part. The part that, I'm not, coming from a structured book or something like that. I'm coming from what's in my soul and spilling that out to people and telling them that way. So that's how I got my start into poetry. And then, I met Sean Battle, CEO of Evolu Culture, through Newark Poetry Council, and the rest is history from there. Probably I say end of 2021, after everything started calming down with the pandemic, everything started opening up. The problem, Newark, high density area, a lot of people, it was still kind of raging there. So I was trying to find a poetry scene somewhere else. I come down, come to poetry in the port a few times. Got in touch with Damien. Just, obviously he knew Sean, so that poetry connection was there. I'm just, trying to link everybody up, North Jersey, South Jersey, all of that stuff. And my first feature was actually at the Nip and Tuck. I think it was around January 6th or somewhere around there. So that 1 year anniversary of being a feature just passed. So, being a part of the Newark poetry scene, being part of the Renaissance poetry scene, it's all been beautiful. And, I did not know this would be happening, but it happened thanks to everybody who came to me, who I met along that journey.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I want you to read a little something from this book. Actually, I want to see. I want people to know what they're dealing with here.
So this book, believe it or not, Illogical, is actually a burn book. If you can't tell by the wording, I'm a bit of a Star Trek fan. Obviously, my favorite character being Spock. So the thing is, Spock goes by the thought of, all decisions must be made of logic and not by emotions. Emotions are to be forced in the background.
Oh, we definitely got to get into that.
Thing is, when you get your heart broken, you have nothing but feelings. This isn't working all the time. So you're trying to speak from here, and that's where the title of the book came from. This book is feelings of illogical. So that's where you go from there. I think my favorite piece out of this is actually one that actually more builds up. It's literally called Brick by Brick, and this is where it goes. Everyone is a builder of their own life. See, some of us are blessed to have a solid foundation to get us started right from the beginning, blessed with the right people in our lives from the beginning. Every brick we decide to lay is one of our own doing. Bricks of knowledge, bricks of skill, bricks of habit, bricks of will. See, when we're young, we have help to make it through, but once we are grown, it is all up to you. See, as soon as you get older and your cement harders and you get stuck in your ways, it's not as easy to change as it was in your younger days. But whether or not you have good times or loads of strife, change is the only constant in life. As ideal as it would be to build perfectly on your own, no one on this earth is capable of living alone. We have to be careful of people who move from home to home, using your building for stability, and then poof, they're gone, leaving a hole in your walls that you have to fix quick or your own building might fall. Don't build your house avoiding other people either, because building with nothing around leaves you stuck in an ether. Most dangerous people to look out for are the ones who use your house as a ground floor, burying you under their bricks because their foundation didn't stick. Taking advantage of everyone in sight because they weren't raised right. But for the precious few who are blessed to have a foundation that is tight, even if your building does fall, you have a head start to get yourself back upright. And although the circumstances of your life you cannot always pick, be determined to keep building your life brick by brick.
That's some game right there.
Absolute fire.
That was a piece from Illogical. Going back to the title, you mentioned something about a heartbreak. Was there something where you got your heart broken that inspired some piece of that, or was there like an incident that kind of like motivated you to get into that?
Basically, as I said before, I was going through the contents of this book. Heartbreak, being in a relationship with someone for a long time and it floundering crazily. And not only that, kind of everything else kind of fell behind it. And your relationship, your living situation, your car, your job, all of it just falls apart. So trying to think logically through that is tough. So you just kind of, either you have to power through it, or sometimes you just gotta cry it out. You just gotta like everything just fell apart. So
I remember my first real breakup and everything. I was just like, oh. Like, I mean, because the first real breakup I had, like, I was fucking this girl from Wendy's, and all we got in a relationship was, like, a whole year. And then she started fucking the grill guy. So I was like, no, but that was, like, after she broke up. But I didn't realize what
that one was for the streets.
Oh, I know. Those were streets. I didn't realize how weak I was back then, because I was like, please take me back. What did I do wrong? And obviously, I was a completely different man. This was many years ago. But, that one heartbreak kind of, but, like, that's what kind of got me to the gym, and that kind of motivated me. It was a stepping stone. It was, like, character development. That meme with the guy in the sky. It's like, this is for your character development. And so that was kind of like me, like, what, you with a girl, something, and then it ended, and then I was find a way to, like, cope, or, like, how to get through that, Because it's hard to think of logical when emotions just destroy your brain, like it just fucking comes at you, right? But that's like a skill, because some people, they get emotional and they go unhinged, they go crazy. We know this from many unfortunate events that happen in American history, especially. People get emotional. That's all. If you can't deal with a girl, some guys can't deal with women. It will they'll go off. It goes wrong. It goes real bad, real quick. And it all comes from that emotional. They just can't handle that woman not being in their lives, and they go nuts, and they make some really bad decisions due to that. Or some people take that, think, okay, now it's over. Now what can I do? You got to think opportunistically. What can I do now to go from here, instead of thinking of it in a negative way? Now you have to think of that in a positive way. How can I use this to my advantage? And I mean, hell, it looks like it went right.
Literally, both of those things happen. You crash and burn, and then, wait a minute, you know what? Get myself back together, build something out of it. Hey, I can do poetry now. Instead of, holding it all inside, write it down, look at it, burn it if you need to. But I happened to put it together. It's now a book available for you to see.
See, that's what I like. That's what I like the most about a lot of this stuff. Like, because with poetry and just art in general, it's supposed to bring out some sort of emotion, and the people who create it need to emote that to make that specific art, right? And because then I understand, because I've written a lot of poetry, especially when I was in like a terrible time, and maybe not in the same situation as you, however, still dealing with some sort of emotion and going through it, and then writing it in that same state though is always not the best, but it could bring out some sort of art that could be useful to some other people. Mm-hmm. And once you go through that and you reestablish yourself and put yourself like in a good mental reset after the terrible situation, finding a way to use art as not only like a coping mechanism, but a way to take the things that you've gone through and the things that you've learned and help others through art, through the form of art like poetry and stuff, is awesome. I love that. That's what I love. I think that's what I love the most about poetry, is like creating art that people can learn from and people can aspire to do something about, like when they read it, be inspired by.
Well, it's dynamic in that respect. When you have a written piece, and the different ways that you can communicate with that written piece, and the different emotions that you can communicate with that written piece, and the different feelings that you can convey that you have, but also have an emotional response from your audience, from your reader, that's really powerful. And, back to what you guys were talking about, we all make illogical decisions. The heart is the strongest muscle. And I will attest to that. Your heart is the strongest muscle. And I really enjoyed your piece. For some reason, while you were reading that, it really reminded me of the proverb that the stone that the builder has refused has become the cornerstone. And I really I found some inspiration in that motivated me. Hearing that just with building a better life. Mm-hmm. And part of art and mental health is using your art in a way that's helpful and healthy for you. We all need that time to create our art, because if we neglect it, if we neglect our needs like that, that's when we can become mentally unhealthy or even illogical, to say, in some respects with our lives. Art helps us process those things that we need to, and it can help other people process the things that they need to. You could look at a painting tomorrow and it could bring you joy that you haven't felt in 10 years. And it could bring to light to you the things that have been causing you a lack of joy for the last 10 years. Or somebody reading something to you, one of their written works, and it touching you so deeply that someone else understands your life or your situation, or some way that you feel connected, that you're not alone in the world with this art. Art connects people. It's universal in that respect. We could all look at a painting of a man and say, that's a man. We can all identify that. It doesn't matter what your language is, It's different with poetry because it is language specific, but with who we can communicate with and with the art that we do have, it holds a lot of weight to the individuals around us who desire to take part in it and share in our creation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing about it too, not only are you conveying a message that you're trying to get other people to understand, you don't know who's in the crowd that needs that message. You don't know who in the crowd needs what you're saying to them. And on the other hand, you don't know how everybody interprets it. So people come up to you, oh, I really felt this piece. Stone that the builder refused. I never thought of that. I've never heard, and nobody else has brought that up, but he brought it up because that's what he felt in his soul. And that's the first time I'm hearing that in 3 years since I've written this piece. So you don't know who can see that. You don't know who needs it, and you don't know how people interpret it, and that can all feed back into you in some way, shape, or form. So
it's all about like interpretation, right? Like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mallrats.
Of course.
Have you seen that? So the scene in which William is looking at the painting. Ethan Suplee, was his name, the actor. He's looking at the painting for hours, and he can't see the sailboat, right? And I just want to see the goddamn sailboat, right? I feel like the whole movie is him trying to see the sailboat, and I don't remember. Did he see it by the end, right?
Honestly, I do remember. I think Stan Lee walked in and It's like, oh yeah.
Oh yes, oh yeah, and he kicked the painting, and then I think in the end credits it was like, William finally saw the sailboat. So he's trying to see what he has to see, and all the people walking by. It's kind of like that painting, right? You interpret what you want, what you can. Maybe William was trying to, I don't know, from the movie, trying to interpret. But I kind of look at it that way, like people see things in a different light. That's why art is so powerful. Like just what you were saying, you never know who you're gonna reach with it as well, and that's why I think isolation can be dangerous up to a point, because if you keep all of this hidden talent hidden and then you never bring it out into the world, you could be missing out on a lot of different perception and different people perceiving your work in different ways that could actually help them in the future, and giving them an insight into different things in the universe and how the way nature is and how things progress. But you never know, and once again, so you bring it out and then you can see different feedback, because as humans we're all social creatures and we have to let our art be seen. That's why the movie critic industry is so huge, because people get to interpret the films that people put out in their own way, and that's why movie critics have jobs. That's why they have their careers of criticizing and also commenting on the film they saw at the festival and what they thought of it and how they interpret it, right? So that's what art can be. It could be anything. It could be anything you want. It could be anything as you see it, right? Some might like a movie and then others might not like that movie. But everyone has their different things of how they saw that movie and how they viewed, like the movie Fight Club, for example. Everyone sees different things in that movie that others can't see. And there are different interpretations of different scenes that some can't see but others do see, right? And there's plot twists and reveals and different things that happen that you would never have seen coming, and that all comes from different forms of art and how you perceive it, and that's what is so beautiful about it, and that's why it needs to be done, it needs to be built, it needs to be said, and that's why people who are behind a lot of these art projects and a lot of these different scenes need to come forward and kind of give their interpretation of the world into that room, right? Because I told Damien a long time ago, when you're speaking, he's quoted this many times, and I'm when he told me, I said, when you're in a room talking to the audience, you're not only talking to the audience, you're also talking to the world, and that's very true in everyone's different perspectives on how they bring out their work, right? So
now, Alex, do you have a piece that you want to share now that Don has done his?
Yeah, I have more than a few I'd be willing to share with you guys.
What we got?
So I've been the last few months I've been compiling a lot of my old poetry and as well as my newer poetry for a chapbook I'm planning on releasing for the new year, hopefully in the next few weeks. That chapbook's going to be titled Self-Full, and there's a very specific reason for that. In light of me writing this, the entire purpose of it is collecting my works and promoting and conveying self-love, self-work, and self-realizations for inspiration and guidance to people. And it's funny that we've been talking about that for a little bit here, because that's a big message I try to bring out to people in my writing. It's like you can grow, you could heal, you can move forward, you can move on, and you keep building your life, and you could persist. Horrible things do happen to us, and the world could be a scary place, but have hope in the future. And Self-Full came about from a conversation that I had with my old chemistry teacher, and something he had said to me after graduating high school. He said, it's not always being about selfish or selfless. Sometimes you need to be full of self, that way you could take care of yourself and your needs in order to assist others if you so desire. And for that, I'm gonna read the first poem, that is I empower you. I empower you. Will you will it so? Reader of my works, seeker of my good word. If I can lift you up, dust you off, and show you that there is still a way, would you believe me? Because it doesn't get better. You get better. You get better at it every day. If you don't write your own story, you'll just be a character in everybody else's. And I can hand you my pen, but only you can write it.
Love that. Love that. See, that's what I like nowadays about like poetry, right? Is like art, like poetry is an art form, so anyone can write whatever they want. But to me, what I'm feeling right now is a lot. I love the like the motivational type poems. Like I know Damien's been going on a rant about that recently, like poetry about the moon and stuff like that, and saying stuff like that. Like I really like the poetry where when you either hear someone perform it or you read it yourself, when you finish that, you get motivated. You're like, yes, I want to move, I want to do something, I want to complete something, I want to accomplish things, I want to, that's the kind of poetry that I'm really into right now. I love that kind of stuff because that's pretty much like, because it brings about positivity, and the world does not really have that nowadays. And so I feel like it is necessary for all of us somehow, some way, to bring out positivity, to spread it. Negativity is like a disease. It's like something that can easily infect everybody. But positivity is something that it can do the same thing, but it's only if you let it. It's only if you let it get into and let it motivate you and let it make you feel a specific way. But that's what I really like that poem. I really like the vibe that it brings and how it made me feel going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes you just need that like ray of light. Like it kind of reminds me of the nerd's gonna come out of me, but it's like in that Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. There's that scene where Harry is like trying to get rid of the Dementors, and they're at the lake, and he's about to be killed, and all sucking his shit out. And I don't know how else to describe it. And yeah, they're jerking his life force out. So, and then, he's literally expecto, but he can't get the spell out because he's literally losing his life force. And then from across the lake, there's like the deer. And then you don't know who, until the movie progresses, you don't know who it is. But then another light comes in and it turns out to be Harry on the deer. It was like Harry himself, like from the future.
And ultimately he saves himself.
Yeah, so he's the light that he shouts it, and then that whole light, that was like a little light, and then he comes in and the whole thing is like a huge ray, and they all go away. So that's kind of like what it is, right? It's like that. With the lights going out, and it's like you don't know how much longer you can go, and then there's like a surge of energy, and like you get like saved by some kind of passion to keep on going, and then that's when the real light comes out, and it blows away that negativity, right? It's like that just the powerful light that comes in when the other one's about to go out. A new light, a new passion, a new ray kind of comes out, and it destroys the negativity absolutely and crushes it, and then just like that.
Well, in light of that, and with what I just read, you have instances in your life where you are at your lowest point. Mm-hmm. And you always think, whenever that is, you think this is the lowest point of your life. You get to that point and you say, this is the worst that this could ever be, and you don't think it can get better. Sometimes you don't think that it can get better. You believe in your mind. You have doubt in your mind that life isn't going to get any better. This is the worst thing to ever happen to me. This is the worst circumstance. I don't know how I'm going to get past this. And some people have faltered in those instances, without the proper support, without knowing that, it is going to be all right, that this isn't the end of your world. This isn't the final say of your life, and with that, it might not even get better. And, some people's lives may continue to be bad. They might be in states where they might not be able to repair them at that time. And with that, you have, what I had said, it doesn't get better. You get better at it. It's you getting better at this life. You will get better at this life. All of us will get better at this life day by day if we put our best foot forward, and we will it so that we can make and build a better life.
Yeah. And that piece that you had, literally talking about being a side character in your own life. Like some people can relate to that. I relate to that. You always try to be that support figure for some people. But you got to come out with your own right. You got to come out with your own way, your own light. You don't want to be a side character in your own life. So being able to come out and do something on your own, create a chat book, come out to these shows, put yourself on the stage, put yourself on the front. Like you said, you become that light you want to see in yourself.
Well, the thing is that we live in a world where I think most people they go by the 70-30 rule. So what that means is people will consume 70% and they will produce 30% of everything, right? So that's, I think, one of the problems, because I think a lot of people have the potential to be that 70% of producing, but the world we live in allows us to be mostly consumers. We buy everything we can off Amazon. We consume everything on TikTok or on Instagram, on our phones. We're constantly sedated by these devices and TVs and news and everything around you, memes everywhere. You can't get off Twitter for 1 second. You can't stop scrolling Facebook on memes. That makes us into consumers. So I think 70% of people, or 70 to 90%, I would say, of people's daily lives is simply is consuming instead of producing. And I think humans are meant to create. That's why the Great Pyramids were built in Egypt, right? That's why we build all the buildings that we have. That's why your house was built by men, by strong men that had to put the wood together, right? Because humans are meant to create. And so unfortunately, we destroy a lot of it because we're dumb. But I think people are naturally, we have brilliant minds, and it allows us to create amazing skyscrapers and a lot of things that we take for granted today. Create this phone I have in my hand. We create all of these things.
It's a divine gift of mankind to be able to create.
But the problem in our society now is most people they're mostly consumers instead of producers. So if you flip the script and you do, our advice to people is to be 70% producing and 30% consuming. You flip the script that way, you're going to feel more fulfilled because you're going to be that creator. So just like you said, instead of reading, reading others' chapbooks and consuming art is great, but you don't want to have it be everything. You want to maybe have a little bit and then add it to your own life. So you want to start producing and creating your own stuff. That way you can put your own stuff in the world, and then you can sort of have it that way. That I think if people did the 70-30 rule in our flipped script, I think it would be, a lot of people would be a little bit happier, because people feel good when they create things and other people consume them, and it's like a sense of accomplishment, which is missing in our society today by many.
Yeah, and especially when whatever you're consuming is something that you can learn from, something that can provide value. Because for example, Don was reading his chapbook. If I was reading your chapbook right now and I got motivated and I was like, okay, I'm learning stuff. I'm learning not only this person, what this person has gone through, but I'm learning things about myself that I didn't think about. And now I have this motivation that I want to do something. I want to produce something, and I'm using all that I've learned from your book, someone else's book, something that I seen online, and I use all that to then produce. I feel like that's how we should be working, at least everybody nowadays, is we should be consuming the things that provide us value to then create to produce. And it's that cycle. And then everybody should be taking what we produce and consuming it to learn, to get value, to then produce something else for them, for other people, and so on and so forth. But I feel like nowadays there's this big panel of people that are pretty much 90% producers. They're producing pretty much everything that we ever see ever. And all we do is just sit down and pretty much just eat it all up. Yep. Whether it's news media, whether it's stupid dances on TikTok, whatever, things, memes on social media platforms, stuff like that. And then you get the diamond in the rough of poetry or things that provide value to you, that you get a little bit of it, but then you also have all this overconsumption of all the stuff that doesn't give you any value. And especially because certain things can give you value. It doesn't matter whether it's poetry or whatever. Everything can give you value, but it actually, what it matters is what you do with it. That's the way that it gives you value. Is if you can watch a dancing video on TikTok, but does it really give you value? I mean, it can give you value if you make dances on TikTok and you learn from these other people who make dances. I wouldn't say that's probably the best thing to do with your life, but there's other avenues that you can go to take in and consume content, and then create your own content that you were inspired by the other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's kind of like let's say you go on YouTube and you want to start a business on giving people oil changes in your front yard, right? Let's say, because a lot of people don't know how to do their own oil changes, and a lot of these companies do it for $30. So what you would do is you would go on YouTube and you would type in how to do an oil change, right? And you would learn how to do oil changes on different cars from people who have already produced that content on YouTube, right? So you consume the content of them, you're watching them do the oil changes on the car, and then you use that knowledge of what you consumed to create your own business, your own thing about then changing oils of other people's cars, because the content you consumed, now you're able to produce a business or a thing of you doing oil changes for people from what you've learned from consuming. So that is what I would call a healthy way of the 30-70% rule that we were talking about.
And I think that's basically the biggest metaphor to that is medicine. You know, some people need to consume medicine. The best way to get medicine is to eat healthy. You know, to consume something that's positive, that makes sense, to something that's that will actually help your body. But then you take the thing that is garbage, that man-made or junk food, you put that in your body, it'll give you a little bit of energy, but it still does. Sometimes it does more damage than good. Doom scrolling, looking at dances on TikTok and not actually doing anything. Oh, that's cute, and then moving on. That did nothing for your life but waste 30, 40 seconds of your life, which is, you never get that back.
Or 30, 40 minutes.
Or 30, 40 minutes of doom scrolling, exactly. So,
time is the fire which we all burn. So,
hello. There you go.
You have to be careful not to waste it.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of people be wasting a lot of time all the time, and then they complain and like, oh, I'm in my 40s now. I didn't really do anything with my life. What am I doing? And
it's like, well, you spent how much time on playing video games or doing whatever. You could have been out in the world making some friends, building some connections. There are different ways to succeed in life. There are many ways. Life is art. Life is game, right? Mm-hmm. What is your game? How are you going to apply your game to life? How are you going to affect your life instead of life affecting you? How are you going to affect your environment instead of your environment infecting you? Important questions people need to really ask themselves when navigating the world we live in.
Yeah.
Speaking of gaming, twitch.com, twitch.tv/Don Krypton. There you go. You can find me on gaming on there as well.
Shameless plug.
He's producing.
Listen, if I'm gonna sit down and play video games for a couple hours, come and watch me. There you go.
Why not, right?
I agree with that. I do agree with that because that's perfect. Because I think there's a lot of people on Twitch making millions. Like it's pretty crazy right now. There's a guy named Aiden Ross out there. He's he's a Twitch streamer. He makes like millions of dollars doing that. There's a few big ones out there. Like, like something you love doing. Find a way to incorporate that into making a lifestyle out of it. Something you really enjoy. Instead of playing some game constantly that's not going to, find a way to provide that giving you value. There's so many, as I said, there's so many different ways of success, and depending on what you're into, you can make that into a dream come true, depending on what you really love. And some things are just passion projects, It's not really about the money or anything. It's not really about, you just love to do it for fun. So we, like getting up on that stage because it's simply joy. It brings that passion. It just keeps you alive. Literally keeps your soul alive. Keeps you from falling down a dark hole, deep rabbit hole. Instead, you're on the stage, talking what you talk.
Yeah, performing my art has definitely helped me with that. I mean, I've seen it help a number of other people too that I've brought into the scene. My friends Mike Demand and Thomas James. I'm happy they joined me in attending a lot of the readings and open mics. And even they've been featuring and spreading their message and becoming more confident in their art. And it's a wonderful progression of self-growth that you see from somebody once being afraid to say their words, spread their message, and then ultimately ending up and having people ask them to do so, because of their ability to perform that and their message reaching people in a positive way.
Absolutely. More shameless plugs. Same thing, bringing people into that producer mentality instead of the consumer mentality. I was able to start a podcast with one of my best friends from middle school, the AM Mayhem podcast.
Same thing.
Also on Twitch. Our year anniversary was the 15th, so we've been doing that for a year.
That's awesome.
And learning from each other back in high school, 15 years old. It's been a lifetime since then, and just now getting to do something that we both love, that we both can report on. It's beautiful. And I have another friend whose birthday is today. Rosemary, we're talking about you.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
And having her come on to, we're doing a podcast on IG streaming called Raw Truths Live Sessions, just talking about relationships and stuff like that. So it's very interesting seeing people who were consumers before come into that producer life and then shine, doing it really well, doing amazing. So
that's actually how we started, because Mike and I, we go back to middle school, and we were friends. We had a friend group all in high school. We had some of the same classes, same friend group, same lunches. We did the same thing after school. In fact, during our we've always kind of been producers, because in high school we were into film, and we filmed series that's still, you can still find on YouTube today. We would also do is we did like a fight club thing, and we had a friend, and we would go into his basement. We would all wrestle, we would fight, and we would record it. You could actually go on. You could find it on YouTube.
You
like,
can find it on YouTube
that
somewhere.
when I was videos when I was fatter, and you could see me just getting thrown on my back. But you know, we've always been trying to create stories and different kind of stuff like that. But we, you know, the same thing. We go back and we were like, you know, we want to keep producing. And we want to put our stuff out in the world, and here we are. We're still evolving every day, and we're not quitting. So that's really what it is. You know, a lot of people get thrown off.
Never quit. Always have faith.
Yeah, even with all the different types of projects that we tried doing, and none of them fully like fleshing out to being what we want, we were just like, well, let's just figure something else out. Let's just keep going on something different.
Yeah, you could always change an idea. That's the beautiful thing about an idea.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because because we started with the Fight Club, and then we had a series that dealt with fighting.
Right.
And then we
It's like fictional versions of ourselves.
fictional versions of ourselves
You know, like
fighting
drug dealers
stuff.
in the neighborhood, and
And then we went to, and then this was also right around when the zombie apocalypse stuff was getting big in the zeitgeist. So we had a zombie apocalypse story that kind of went a little supernatural as well. And like all these things, like we wrote out, we fleshed it out, had a whole bunch of people on board to do it, like to help us with it. And then nothing would really come of it, but we had the journey of doing it was what was great for us. But when, you know, things just nothing was really happening with it, we were just like, all right, well, what's the next thing we're gonna write? What's the next thing we're gonna start planning? What are we doing? You know, I know you and John, you guys wrote a movie. You guys wrote a horror film
script. Yep.
And then I helped you know, revitalize it when we were trying to do it again. We were trying to get that settled again.
Yeah, it's all about keeping moving and not being content, because I don't think humans are meant to be content. I think when we're supposed to be moving on to a new project, you know, once again, it's what keeps us alive. You know, always writing new things, new poems, new books, new ideas. It's always putting your content out there, and because there's always something new. Different life events will change your perception of things, and it'll inspire you to write new things, right?
Life makes us create art. You know, without life, we have no art to create. So
Without experiences of life, yeah.
Yeah.
If you sat in your house all day, your entire life, you would have nothing to write about because you'd know nothing about the world. But when you find out about the world, it gives you so many different plot points and where to start, where to begin, different ideas to write about.
And then you can be creative.
Yeah.
You know, you have things you can extrapolate on. There's, you know, certain instances or ideas or fantasies even, you know, ideas and notions of, you know, as you guys said, you know, you guys are writing horror scripts, zombie apocalypse stuff. I mean, come on, man. When past 100 years ago did we really, you know, talk about zombies other than Frankenstein? You know, there was a whole decade there of just zombies. Like everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we're all gonna eaten by zombies." You know, everybody had their zombie, their proposed zombie, you know, plans for when the world ended. You know, bunkers going into the mountains. You know, and The Walking Dead was really big too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys enjoyed watching that or not.
I did enjoy watching that up until about season 8. Right when the most important character decided to not be in the show anymore, is kind of when I was like, well, was that 9? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I'm actually now rewatching that, to be honest. I actually started rewatching the beginning of the series because I was like, this is when this stuff was really good. I love this stuff because in the beginning, actually, I don't know if anyone really, if you actually cared about the show, you probably would know. Like the guy who created the show for AMC, like Frank Darabont, like he had the first 6 episodes like all written out before like anyone was even on set, before they even casted anybody. He had everything written out, all planned out. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he gave it to the cast members when they finally casted everybody, and everybody loved the guy. And then pretty much just before the second season was getting ready for pre-production, got rid of him, and everyone was just like, what's going on? Like, we don't know what's happening. And then that's why, like, after the first season, everything seemed to be different, but like it still became like one of the greatest shows to come out of like the mid 2010s. But with that creative mind gone, it kind of hindered the possibilities that could have came from it, which is you know, it's a weird thing to go through, because especially when you're in that creative process. But what do you guys, now speaking of creative processes, what do you guys do like when you get into the creative process, like when you're trying to create new poems? Do you guys like is there anything specific that you guys do? Like, you guys like sit down and think about the things that you've gone through and then start writing, or if something just pops up, do you guys just write?
So I keep a notebook on me, in case I have ideas. If I don't have it on me, I'm kind of screwed. I just need to remember them.
It's a good idea.
But yeah, typically.
Like wherever you go, you keep a notebook on you?
Generally, I don't have it on me right now. It's in my car.
But that's still kind of on you,
Yeah, well, I have just like a pocket-sized notebook. I have a few notepads.
Okay, that's a smart idea.
I also have a work bag. It's just generally, something I have a lot of my creative gear in it. Notebooks, full-size notebooks.
It's very smart. You planned ahead, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have a laptop in there, full-size notebook, sketch pad. I have pencils, different pens, paper, things I want to, write, create. If I want to write, and I like to physically write. I've typed up a lot of my stuff recently, but physically writing is very therapeutic for me, and I find that I could, it's a good medium for what I'm doing. And sometimes electronically it's a good medium too. But I use both, but I typically prefer writing on pen and paper. And when you talk about like a creative process, yeah, dude, I get stoned and I just sit in my room and I think about man, that's what I'm thinking about. I want to write about that. That's a good idea. That'd be a good idea. I like how this rhymes. These are some good ways to express it. I just go through, what I'm writing, and I reread it. I see how it flows. Sometimes it doesn't always flow the way I want it to, but some things aren't meant to flow the way you want them to either. And then some things are. Some things are meant to flow seamlessly when you're writing, and other things are meant to be read. Other things are meant to be performed. I've found that I've been trying to do both in my writing styles now, which has been great. But I'll sit around, get stoned. Sometimes not get stoned, or I'll go sit out in the greenhouse where I live because I live on a farm. Sit around some plants, play some music. I get done playing some music. I'll play my guitar, play my harp or whatever. We got a banjo there too. The farmer likes to play. I like stringed instruments, so that gets my juices flowing. And if I want to sit down and write out my thoughts, or think about what message I want to have in a work, or write something on fantasy, it's all the same process. I just sit down and let myself go to it. I let it engulf me and my mind, my feelings, and I let it pour onto that page. Or on that canvas or whatever medium that I'm using for the purpose of doing that. And biggest thing is you take your time, and that's what I do. I try to take my time when I do it because that's my time. It's my time to enjoy. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it might just come right out of you. Other times it won't. But that's your time to create. That's a very important time.
Depends on the day, right?
Yeah. God, I wish it was that easy for me.
What's your creative process?
My creative process is likely I'm sitting in the car driving in the middle of something, probably, not going 80 miles an hour down the parkway or the turnpike, and this is a great line. And that's why I keep two of these things on me, so my things always have to be electronic.
I was gonna ask you about that.
I have the notes. I have hundreds of notes on both of these devices. Whether it be voice to text, or if I just have to pull over to the side of the road and get my thoughts out. I'm always in the middle of doing something when a thought comes to me and it inspires me in some way, shape, or form. And I have to normally it starts off with one line. I have one line and I write it down. And then at some point in time, I'll come back to it and I look at it. I'm like, what are my thoughts on this? What was happening when I wrote this line? And then I kind of build out from that one line, whether it be down, whether it be backwards, whether that be the first line, or that just be that one line in the middle that hits. You expect that, reaction from it. But yeah, I believe that's more or less my process. I'm in the middle of something. I write down that one line, try to put as much context as I can within that period of time. But then I come back to it and flesh it out, work it out, make sure there's, try to do some rhyming. I don't know. It's not always necessary. That's one thing I've actually learned, more or less coming down to the Renaissance thing. And, like I said, probably the Newark scene is a little bit more, I would say, definitely more performance heavy, but still very valid in the message. Coming down to the Renaissance scene, very much more a expression of feelings than need to perform or need to rhyme or need to be, showy and flashy. It's just getting that thought out, to the people and expressing yourself, which both I'm trying to, provide in my performances and my readings now. But I think just the process of it has to come to my mind. I have to be inspired by something. I have to see something. I have to feel something. Something have to inspire my heart. That'll come out to the page or to the screen, whichever one I have on me at that point in time.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes for me. Mine is a little more chaotic, but it works for me.
Did you ever have like stage fright? And if you did, how'd you like overcome it?
So stage fright, I believe, for me personally, I got over my stage fright when I was younger. I do have a little bit of experience in public speaking. So being on the stage isn't the scary part for me.
So is there a scary part?
The scary part is telling people about my emotions.
Okay.
Again, illogical. I try to getting out on paper what's on your mind, what's on your heart. Is a different story. Being vulnerable with people that you might not know is what is a little bit more scary. You don't know how people are going to react to if your message just doesn't resonate with them. People might not clap in the crowd. People be like, "Oh, your stuff sucks." All that stuff goes through your mind. Not necessarily being on stage, but what message are you giving to the people? Is it the proper message? There's no such thing as a proper message in poetry. You're trying to express yourself. So that's more or less what gets to me. I think the scary part is being vulnerable and expressing yourself on stage. This is the scary part for me.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people have trouble getting their emotions out. They don't know how to say it. It's very interesting. I think every mind works different, but a lot of people, they just don't know how to express certain things. Is that something you've had difficulty doing? Kind of like figuring out what's the best way to let this out, or you just resort automatically to the paper instead of verbally talking to someone about it? Because, I noticed that the problem with most people, especially a lot of guys these days, I've noticed, they simply don't have people to talk to. Mm-hmm. They don't have a network of friends. And I'm not talking about like going out on stage. I'm talking about just a personal group of friends to actually relate to, talk about their stories too. Like, I got Mike, right? I told you, we go back for the day. And then we got our friend Joe, who he's been on the podcast before, but he's more like low key. And then we have a couple others, like friends that we know in real life, and we'll get together in a group, go out to the bar, have a drink, or we'll just go to someone's house, watch a movie. No, I am, I would say, a more rare exception because I actually have a friend group that I can, tell my stories and my thoughts to. Because, I say, yo, Mike, last week this thing happened and I got to figure out how to process this. And so I'm more of I don't really give a fuck. I'll just tell you, I'll say whatever on my mind. Mike usually has to hear my bullshit. Like, oh my God. But usually my bullshit's entertaining. So at least it doesn't seem like I'm overly complaining because my life's pretty hilarious if you know me behind the scenes. So when I tell Mike my stories, he just starts chuckling and everybody's like I
grab the popcorn. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time to be entertained.
Like my whole life is going to be the greatest book ever written. But but it's like I'm fortunate in the way that I actually have a group of friends that I can talk to different people about some things. But there's a lot of guys out there that they don't have a friend group. They don't have people they can trust. A lot of people, that's another thing of trust. People do not trust certain individuals to be able to handle the things they're going to say. Mm-hmm. Like people put their poetry out in the world, but there's a lot of things that are in their mind, like deep in their mind, that has never been said out loud, and they don't know where to put it. So either it goes to the paper or it stays hidden in your mind, and all those things, they combust over time, and then it gets mixed in the head, and it could be dangerous to keep that stuff in. People need to find an outlet, a way to release all these different emotions or feelings or thoughts, and without a friend group, it's gonna be a little bit harder to do that. Or if you don't have a friend group, you have acquaintances around you, but you're not comfortable enough to share that information. So even though you may be hanging out with them and you may have social events, you're not giving them the full extent to who you are. You hold a lot of things back and you just give them the basics. Oh, how was your week? Good. So what have you been up to? I just been chilling, man. Like you give them nothing. You give the bare minimum. It's the same thing. Hi, how are you? Good. And then you walk away. Like sometimes I'll troll. I'm a natural born troll. Like people say, hey, how are you doing? And I'll just go. I'll go nuts. I'm like, hey, how's your day going? I'm fucking shitty. This happened today. Some bitch told me something. Like I'll just give them an answer they didn't expect, and they're like, oh, and then they walk away because
they just don't know how to handle it.
Because they ain't ready for me. Because they ain't ready for this motherfucker, right? When I enter the shit and I start talking my shit, they are not ready for the absolute truth. But that's what is a lot of people are not ready to give their full thoughts on how their day went because they're simply not ready to talk to either a stranger or an acquaintance about how their day went, or even their family. A lot of people are just simply uncomfortable with spilling the beans. I'll give it all. I don't really care. I have no filter. I get pleasure from giving out everything I got, but that's why I'm a happy guy, because I have nothing held in here. Everything's out in the open. It's on our YouTube. It's on our YouTube videos. Like I give my real life out there, without any illegal things going on. But that's what makes me, I think, a little bit more healthy. But a lot of guys, they don't have that. They don't have the same amount of things to be released. They hold a lot of it in. That's why a lot of people deal with emotional trauma, because they don't know how to release. That's why going to the gym, I think, is so important, because lifting weights and cardio and stretching, it's all a form of release, which people desperately crave, right?
Yeah.
Poetry is also a release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like you're exercising different muscles there. You know, for some people though, in respect to what you were saying about whether they are able to convey those emotions, whether because some people might not have an outlet, but alternatively, with that, they might not be able to. These things might not be accepted by, say, their families. They might not be able to openly communicate with their families. And talking about, say, the stage fright, for instance, you have somebody who has not been able to freely speak for, I don't know, say the better portion of their life, let's say. So they have a hard time being able to freely speak about these things that they would like to share, or this art they would like to share, but they think they can't. We were talking about that earlier, and
they've convinced themselves they can. Yeah.
They've convinced. Well, yeah, that's kind of what it is. They can't do it, or think they can't do it, but they can, and that's part of the learning process with it. Is that you're going to learn that you can do that. You can express these emotions, and you could perform your poetry, your art, and express those emotions without hindrance. The only hindrance ends up being you at that point, whether or not you are comfortable and confident in you being able to speak with yourself and others, and being true to yourself and others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's about a little bit of societal norms too. Society doesn't want to, hear men speak about emotion.
They're going to hear me. I'll tell you that.
But I'm saying, yeah, they try to say that it's a female trait. And it's like, people who are dug into those old notions of men aren't supposed to cry and stuff like that. Like people get into that, are so stuck into that they will hurt themselves trying to conform to it. And it's a ridiculous thing. And all humans are built relatively the same way. Some people have these tendencies, some people have others, but you have emotions for a reason. So holding them all in and bottling them up, like you said, is not healthy for you in any slightest bit. So being able to have some type of release, being able to put it on paper, being able to talk to friends, being able to go to the gym, actually doing something to release that is the most important thing.
Well, I think also it's also like part of it is releasing the emotions, but another big part of it, especially for men, it's controlling the emotions, right? Because as I was talking about earlier, the man who keeps all his emotions bottled, and then one day it gets uncontrollably, the keyword uncontrollably, released, and that's when you get stuff like shootings. That's when you get stuff like someone beats someone up, you hear in the news. That's when these emotional outbursts happen after so many years and so much time of keeping it all in. That's when these emotional people it goes the wrong way, right? So when you have an emotional release, you have to make sure it gets controlled in the right way. Lifting weights is emotional control in the right way. Releasing your thoughts on paper and then saying it out to a crowd, that is a controlled release, right? That is a positive way to do it. Beating up someone or going emotionally unhinged on a rant and you offend other people in a really harmful way, that's uncontrollable emotions. And a lot of people do not have the emotional intelligence to aim and fire at those sort of emotions. That's the kind of the world. That's the problems that we're facing in today's society. People don't know how to control their emotions and how to release.
Are we taught emotional intelligence? So that is the real question here. I mean.
Well, but the better question is who's gonna teach it. I mean, school teaches you math, it teaches you language arts, it teaches you maybe music class, it teaches you history, but it doesn't. I mean, maybe psychology class you get in college, but you have to pay for that. But high school does not really an incentive, or maybe lower like non-college, like there's no really things that teach you that. It's something you have to sort of teach yourself in a way, or you have to have powerful mentors or role models like a dad, strong family unit, strong friends around you, social network, people that can balance, right, yin and yang, balance you out and sort of give you different perspectives. But like I said before, if most guys or most people don't have that social circle, where do they go? Right? Where can they go? They don't know. They're aimless and they need to find their own path. And sometimes it's very difficult for the lonely individual because statistics are proving a lot of people are lonely. That is the word, and they don't know where to go, and they've never been taught by, whether it be maybe they were in a single mom household, maybe they never had a dad to teach them like man stuff, like male traditional stuff, or they've never been taught how to do certain things, like most people can't change a tire. It's kind of like that. Who is going to teach us if we're not structured into a healthy family unit or network friends? Who is going to teach us, right?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with that. Actually, it's as to our society, or even more closely our immediate contacts and inner circles, to help educate us effectively on that emotional intelligence, how to process those things. Sometimes those people might not know how to do that either, though. I know we were talking about that, generationally, with men, more specifically, that it's taboo, and it's one of the reasons why it's really nice actually seeing quite a few men come out to these poetry readings, and
It's actually a lot of them, yeah.
yeah, quite a few,
if not most. Yeah,
I'd say there's a pretty good balance. I mean, I've seen a number of female poets. I've seen a number of male poets. And when you talk about these performances, everybody has their own styles, and
yeah, so it makes it great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But even with how great that it is, the best thing is, seeing that emotional intelligence at work, for some of these people, and how writing has helped these people, and a number of them, you could see it, and especially if you look into people's written works, and you might see a progression, and you could see where someone was and where they are now, and their performance reflects that, and their emotional intelligence, to some degree, and how they process these things, how they process their art, how they process their emotions, how they process their life, and there's a lot of insight you can get from just digging into someone else's art. And as you were saying earlier, reading other people's works, or listening to other people's works, and seeking or finding inspiration. And I mean, there's a number of performers and poets that in the last 6 to 8 months that have inspired me in some of the things that I've written. And it's nice to see how that, again, back to the society, the inner circle, and the network, and not being, where otherwise we're some people who may struggle with these things, struggle with the feelings of loneliness or alienation, and having this type of outlet is extremely beneficial for not only the individual's growth, but the growth of a community.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big difference between a support system and a validation system. Swinging it back around to the social media aspect of it, you can go and post on something, or post something or say something controversial just to get out whatever thoughts you have, and you get a bunch of likes. But then at the end of the day, you're still by yourself. So I believe these poetry events. Going to work out, you find a community there. You come to the poetry events, you find a community there. Those people who come to you and they validate you, and if they're feeling that way, they can come to support you as well. You can become good friends with a lot of people in the poetry scene simply because we related to each other's topics. We were able to talk about it. We were able to actually come together on topics that maybe were hurtful, but at the same time, since we were able to bond, we were able to talk to each other. We were able to, flesh those things out. And like I said, I believe it's more about building the community and supporting each other in that certain way.
Like, exactly. Would you say you have like a mentor or someone who has sort of taught you many valuable lessons on life? Like, who would you call like a mentor, or someone that like a mentor figure?
Mentor figure. me being relatively new as well. I know Alex says he's been 6 to 8 months. I've been maybe a couple of years in this.
Maybe someone who's like kind of made you into the person you are today, like someone you look up to, maybe someone that inspires you to write, a person or people that kind of get you going. Right?
All right. Well, in the poetry scene, obviously, Sean Battle, first and foremost, he's CEO of Evolu Culture, brought me in. When I didn't even know I was a poet yet, I was just trying to help out in the background, do the tech stuff and the Zoom calls, when everything was going virtual. So,
what's next?
yeah, exactly. So he said, hey, okay, so when are you getting on the show? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not a poet. Get on the show. So, that was that kind of push there. Somebody who I relate to specifically actually did the forward for my book, James Ellaby, who runs New Jersey Poetry Events. He did the forward for my book, and that was amazing because we're both kind of the same, I believe that the term we call them is blurred. So, we're both into, science. You go to Comic-Con, all that good stuff. And he's definitely taken me a bit under his wing. He actually helped me a little bit when I was kind of on the tail end to get that final push to get the publishing going as well. I'm not gonna leave out Damien. He gave me my first feature outside of the Newark area, and we've been consistently rocking basically together ever since. There's quite a few people. Obviously, the entire Evolu Culture team. Everybody has done something in some way, shape, or form. Treasure, the Ism, Amos Renee, just so many people in the community. I can't forget Jules with a Z. She's been on my poetry journey with me the entire time, basically from the past 2 years. So there's so many people, even if they're not necessarily mentors to me, people who are my contemporaries that show me the way. Alex has his own perfect, his style works for him so well that when he gets on stage, I didn't know that it was one of his first times performing. So I'm like, you are awesome. You're amazing. Oh man, I didn't know what was going on. Well, keep doing whatever you do. So,
I'm flattered, Don.
Listen. I'm the type that is inspired by everyone because everyone who gets on that stage is brave enough to do it and has something that they need to share. So, literally everybody who's a part of this, obviously, please keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate all of you.
Absolutely. How about you, Alex? Do you have some people that you feel that are mentors to your work, or people that are kind of who inspires you to write, or who inspires you in general to become the person that you are today? Whether it be a mentor figure or someone that just inspires you in general.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of mentors, I wouldn't really say, there were many role models or mentors. I said this a few times in my life, actually. I didn't really have any role models growing up. I just had people that I didn't want to be like. So it made all the difference for me.
That's pretty fair.
But, I mean...
I can think of a few, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we could all think of a few people that we just don't want to be like, But, I mean, I'm not here to knock anybody down. I want to bring some people up here.
Yeah.
So, in terms of my inspirations, I mean, I found a lot of inspiration in a lot of more classical American poetry, like Robert Frost. And I'm going to tell you some really probably generic names here, like William Blake. A lot of Old English, Old English or recent American poets. Shakespeare even inspired me. His works. And a number of books that I read throughout my middle school and high school. I have a poem referencing a work by Daniel Quinn. He wrote a book called Ishmael. It is a mind-opening book about our society and culture. And at that time, I was taking a lot of consciousness of man classes, which is something that I've delved into a lot in my life, is just how the mind of man and the consciousness of man, the psychology of man as mankind, works and operates. And that was a pretty formative time in my life. My high school into my college years for writing and developing ideas. But if I was going to talk about people that I directly know that have benefited me, my peers, as Don said, my contemporaries, and that's how I look at everybody, in the scene. I could go on listing names. I probably couldn't sit here long enough listing names of the people that I've met so far in the scene. I mean, of course, we have Damian Rucci, and we all know him, of course.
Love that man.
Of course, we all love that man.
Absolutely
He is a force to be reckoned with, I will say. He truly is. I've never seen somebody so positive and so forthcoming to creative works and getting everybody up there and giving them that opportunity to show that. And then there's Rebecca Weber. Actually just seen her perform in Woodbridge. She had a full-length feature, which was amazing. I'm really happy that I went to see her. Of course, my close friends, Thomas James and Michael DeMann, I've known them both for 12 years. And they're some of the best friends I could have asked for in this life. I'm happy I have them in my support system. Don being one of the first people to talk to me after I went up on the mic actually for the first time, which I thought was I thought it was really funny that you'd be here tonight on this podcast with me because I've greatly appreciated your work in the scene. Every time I've watched you perform, I feel like we're a little similar with our positivity and our self growth notions in our works and bringing certain topics to light. You more, I would say maybe you more specifically than me, but I could probably go on for 10 minutes and I would have to try to remember everyone's name that I have met over the last 8 months. And I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of wonderful, talented artists.
Mm.
And every one of them has touched me in one way, shape, or form with their messages.
Well, that's sort of like the beautiful thing about it, right? It's taking all these people from different avenues and different different areas of life, right, and bringing them together in one room or one building, one venue to let some thoughts out and to gain some perspective and also be entertained at the same time, while also at the same time you're networking, you're building new friends, creating new social circles, and putting yourself out there rather than sitting at home watching porn, drinking off, being the average guy just chilling. You're actually going out into the world and you're actually like communicating with other like-minded people, and that brings a certain force into the world that's greatly needed right now. Is when different people from different avenues come together and they actually they show off what they can do. It's kind of like bringing your race car and kind of seeing how fast you can go. It's sort of like the same thing, right? Just seeing what you got, what you're made of, and then seeing who you connect with the most, and they'll come talk to you. And then it's a very positive experience that not many understand unless you actually are there. You have to actually be present in the moment in order to understand what we're talking about. That's how deep it goes, right?
Well, give me a moment, please. Let me collect myself. As to your your last statement, I would have had to have been present in that last moment. Please excuse me. I'm getting kind of tired. I've had a long day.
I've had a long life.
It's all good. It's all good.
We've all had a long day today.
Yeah.
It's been a long month.
Yeah, you literally just caught me with that. Like I mean it. Like if you put out a fishing line right there, I totally bit.
I feel that I've done that multiple times on a podcast before. I'm just like, and I lost my train of thought right now.
And we're gone.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
It's all right, man. No pressure here. We got whiskey. We good.
Yeah, actually, can I trouble? Can we all have a round?
Yeah,
Maybe
might
have
as
a
well
toast?
if we're gonna go for it.
I appreciate
Yeah, there we go.
us all getting together
All
now.
right. After that, to poetry, right?
This is for the guess. I can't just drink out of the bottle.
To poetry.
There you go. Good stuff.
We Andrew and I do plan on coming back around for to get back in the poetry scene. We're
gonna make our rounds.
We've talked to Damien multiple times, and we've been because we used to come back. We used to go there during the beginning, like way before he went to Missouri and everything. Mm-hmm. We were always around, and I used to go on the open mics and stuff. And then life happens. But now that everything's back and everything's cool, we had Damien on a couple months ago. What was a couple months ago? I think by now.
Probably like a month or
it was
It was about a month and a half ago. I actually watched your podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, and we told him that we definitely want to come by, and that's why you guys are here right now, because we came to the brew, and you guys definitely caught our eyes, and we're like, we need We need to talk to these people. These are great people right here.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for asking us.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks for talking to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the only way you're gonna know like what people are made of, right? This is if you actually get the balls and put yourself out there and actually, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? It doesn't hurt to go up to someone and say, "Hey, excuse me, I heard what you said, and I want to let you know that I was listening, I was there, I heard the words you said, and I want to further this discussion over some whiskey and some mics, right?" So. It takes a lot of, you have to be in a certain mindset in order to, number one, go to the place. Number two, listen. Number three, go to the person you just listened to and have a conversation with them in private and actually get to pick their brain a little bit more and actually have the courage to say, hey, can we continue this discussion sometime? Let's plan something. And then step four is actually you make it happen, right? You take action to the goal you want and you make it happen, which we've completed all 4 steps as of this moment. So that's,
You
I
made
think, the beautiful.
4 initiative rolls right there, and they all passed.
But that's the game, right? Is everyone has their own way of doing things and their own path to success, and that's why it all comes together, right? But you gotta be in a certain mindset in order to take initiative and to complete those 4 steps. You need to do certain things. You have to, instead of just talking about it, you need to actually get out and go out and conquer the world, right? You have to put your dent in the universe. That's what it's all about.
Oh, I don't gotta conquer the world, but it would be nice to make my mark.
Well, it all starts with conquering yourself, right?
Yeah.
When you're on the path to conquering yourself, then that allows you to enter into the world. When you enter the world, then you can start conquering, because it is, it's putting yourself out there. It's the same thing, right? That's your game. That's the way you're going to play it. And you're going to go out and you're going to show the world who you are and what you're made of. And you can't do that unless you don't have the initiative to put yourself out there in the first place, right? It only takes a few steps to walk outside of your house, get in your car, and drive here, right? But some people they don't have that initiative, but they could. They have that potential to, and they know they do, but they won't. But there are some who do, and the ones that do, it will pay off, right? You have to take the initiative and put yourself out there, and it pays off, right? If you put in the work, if you are who you say you are, if you allow yourself to be what you want to be, then you got to make the impossible possible, right?
You need to have a personal revolution of yourself and spirit.
That's where it begins, because you can't go up against anyone else unless you're comfortable with yourself. You can't put yourself out in the world unless you know who you are and what you bring to your own table, right? That's, everybody wants to come at everybody else without vetting themselves first, because a lot of people don't know themselves. They don't understand what they're about, and it takes time to learn who you are and what you're going to bring into the world. And then only then can you start and conquering the mission, right? Going into, the obstacle course and seeing what you could do.
I think that's the biggest issue with society today too. Most people are so worried about criticizing other people and showing that pointing out other people's flaws, and they don't really know who they are themselves.
Exactly,
It's about getting into that mode of finding out, vetting out, making yourself pure first before you go out and start pointing out other people's flaws.
Because everybody is quick to criticize and come at others' throats and try to be the bully in town, but then you look at themselves and they hate themselves and they don't know who they are. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have a mission. They don't have any goals. They don't have a plan, right? But a lot of people get off on that. They get off on putting others down and then making themselves feel neutral, right? 'Cause a lot of people are in neutral mode. They don't know how to hit the gas.
Well, you use this phrase, conquering of self. I like it, but I don't exactly agree with the conquering of self part. You see, you're not your own enemy. You actually have no enemies in this life. That is the wonderful thing about it. I mean, no man or woman, no person has any enemies. It's all perceived. And you're not at war with yourself. That is a mindset that will not help you. When I used to meditate quite a bit, one of my goals and purposes of my meditation was to have my soul fully inhabit my body. And that was my way of, as I said, having a self-realized revolution of the body and spirit. I'm a spiritual person. When your soul and being, your soul and vessel align, you will find that you are perfectly who you are and that you inhabit yourself fully. And when you inhabit yourself fully, when you inhabit yourself to the best degree that you can in this life, in this world, this plane, you're able to have access to all of your your virtues, your gifts, your abilities, and they become apparent to you. Your path becomes clear, and we see who we are. We know who we are, and that I guess that would be your, as to your phrasing, conquering of self. So
Well, it's also about like navigating the world and finding out who you are, right? Because everybody has their own journey, right? To find where they are and where they're gonna go. It's same thing included in putting yourself out into the world. That's how we find what we connect with, right? What we put out in the world and how it's perceived. And like I personally, I like criticism because I love reflecting and building. Because I think life is progress, and I think it's always good to be building upon things and making things a little bit better. Because that's what life is. It's progression, right? Mind, body, soul. It's all in one.
And I think there's sometimes people are coming from the other side of it. Being a very physical being myself, I know that sometimes if I get out of control, something bad will happen. So you try to suppress.
I'm in another room. I don't know
do.
about you guys.
Just try to
WWE, man. This ain't the night.
Listen,
that,
I get it. Try to suppress.
I
yourself.
didn't say anything, bro. It was him. Okay, it wasn't me.
Oh man, no. Sometimes you suppress yourself so much where you are unable to fulfill your full greatness.
Absolutely.
You make yourself smaller than you think you are, and that does nothing for anybody. It does nothing for you. It does nothing for people who could benefit from what you can give them. It does nothing for anybody who, if you have children, if you have people who look up to you, it does nothing for them because they can't see you at your full potential.
Exactly.
So you have to actually go out, come out of whatever shell you're in to be able to expand to your greatest being, the best that you can be. So that's the most important thing. Try to get to that top of yourself.
Yeah, that's what we try to preach on this channel. We try to always make sure that people be the best version of themselves as possible, and to look at things in a specific way. If they feel in a specific way of negativity, they need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and like really think about the specific situation or the specific topic that they're thinking about that gives them some sort of negativity, and try to find a way to bring out positivity. Like I said earlier, like the whole world is negative. So why feed into that when you can just find a way to make positivity and try to try to give others that positivity as well.
I disagree with you that I don't think the whole world is negative. I think our society is in a negative state. The world is in a very neutral state. The world that we live in, the world that we know, has been chaotic. The society that we know right now has been chaotic, and with very good reason. The last few years have been a mess.
Very much.
That's an understatement.
Let's face it. It's been more fucked up than a soup sandwich. I'll tell you.
I blame Harambe for this.
A lot of people they
it's not Harambe's fault. They shot him.
No, that's what I'm talking about. I blame them shooting Harambe for everything.
Well,
everything went downhill after that.
We know a lot of people feed off negative energy because it makes them feel better about themselves. It's like some people cope with it. I don't like the idea of making everything negative. I think I try to put a positive spin on everything. I'm very much an optimistic person. I try to think of everything. Well, I have this phrase. I forgot. There's someone else who said it before me that it was like, always think of a situation, no matter good or bad, and think of these words. Well, this is good because, and why that is so effective is because whenever you think of a negative situation, you can put a spin on that mentally. This is up to you. It's yourself. This is your mental cognition talking. You have to even if the worst thing possible happens, you have to say to yourself, okay, well, this is good because, and what that does is it's a mental shift. It flips the script of everything that can be considered negative, and you can take that and spin it in a positive light. Well, this happened to me yesterday, but this is good because, and if you keep thinking these things, and if you keep trying to be an optimistic and opportunistic mindset with a lot of situations that happen today, you can make life into a much better reality than what could be. If you decided, well, this sucks because, it's a whole different mindset thing. It changes everything around you.
I think it's good to. I'm sorry, Don. No, I just wanted to add that I think it's good to look at these trials and tribulations that we might face and look at them as learning experiences. I think that's the best thing we can do.
That goes with it exactly. Yeah.
Kind of sometimes you got to straddle that middle ground between hoping for the best and preparing for the worst.
You do need to be strategic as well at times. Mm-hmm. That comes into logical, not illogical, right? That goes into logical terms. Like you need to be like the worst comes to worst can happen in life. It's an absolute life is life. It is what it is. You have to be prepared. You have to be smart enough, right? You have to have emotional and logical intelligence in order to think, okay, if this happens, what am I going to do here? And this is good because, right, you can combine these different things to make the best outcomes possible, because life is not always going to play in your favor, and things are absolutely 100% going to happen that are going to throw your plan off. It's going to throw it off, and you need to be prepared for anything, because life is going to hit you with a lot of different things. After today, tomorrow, the next day, you don't know what's going to happen next. You have to try to strategically prepare for anything, and try to, and when shit does hit the fan, you need to think about, what can I do now? What can I do? Instead of sulking, you have to try your best to think, okay, now what am I going to do with this information I have now, and how am I going to use it to my advantage, and what am I going to, how am I going to navigate through this, right? It comes into logical thinking, and it also is another form of emotional intelligence.
That's that Mike Tyson phrase, everybody has a plan so they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotta love Mike Tyson.
He ain't wrong.
Shit.
But, life is what it is, but it's about what you make of it, right? Nature is what nature does. Now, what are you going to do, right? It's all about, we have to take self-accountability and decide what is going to be the best course of action for every action that is taken with us in life, right? It all comes down to action and reaction.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
It's like basic action reaction right there.
Well, you have to think, is it worth fighting or is it worth flighting, right? Is it better to walk away sometimes, or is it better to fight the fight full head on, which not is always the best call. But, it all comes down to the decision you make in the moment, and the decisions you are prepared to make in the moment that make all the difference.
Well, do you choose to act or shy away? That's...
Depends on context, right?
It does depend on the context. And I know what I said was a little broad.
There's like an infinite amount of possibilities, I think, depending on situations and environments and context of contextual situations. There's so many different possibilities. But, it all comes down to, what is the mind prepared to handle? I think that comes from an individual basis. What is the mind prepared to get into? Well, and is the mind prepared to fight? Or is it better to flight? Is it better to flee? Currently in this mental state you may be at, depending on the context of the situation that may unfold. So it really depends on your mental toughness and really who you are and what you're offering to the world, right? And then life is going to decide, if you're fit for any given situation.
Well, I guess it's up to your constitution then.
Yeah, your principles, your values, what you hold, who you are, right? What game are you playing in this life? What is your style? What is the way you speak? How is the way you think? How are you going to handle this situation? And you going to let it defeat you, or are you going to be able to handle it?
Phrase that Evolute culture goes by all the time: adapt or perish. That is evolution. At any point in time, something could change, something could hit the fan. You got to be prepared to make that next move, not to sulk in it, not to sit, like you said, not to just sit back and not do anything, not to, stew in your own badness. Get out there, make the next step. What do we do now? What gets us to where we want to be since this happened? If there's a setback, find a way to get to the next step. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well said.
I like that a lot. Migrate or perish is a big teaching in biology, actually, and in my studies of the sciences and my studies in chemistry, a big thing that I put forward was that I don't have problems, I have solutions. I can find a solution to any problem. That goes with having a science or engineering oriented mind. It's like you see a problem. I don't see a problem. I see a number of different solutions.
That's a great way to look at it. I would agree with that. Yeah.
You could look at, everybody could look at this problem differently. Where you have this problem, and for some other people it might not even be a problem. But for you it's a problem. Mm-hmm. And when we look at this issue, a lot of us, we get roadblocked. We have blinders on. We might get tunnel vision. And I as I would like to, as I do say it to people, is you have your problem. You're looking at your problem right now, right? Your problem's right in front of you. You can't see past your problem. You gotta look through your problem, because that's where your solution is.
Mm-hmm. You have to be able to see within. Right.
Well, you need to be able to, with your mind's eye, see past that problem. Mm-hmm. See where want to go, your outcome, your plan, your whatever your action is going to be, to, at, and after that solution. You need to know what you want. You need to know. You might not know how to get it at that time, but you got to know what the solution looks like and what it is, because that will help. Well, once you know what it looks like, once you can identify what you want, what your solution is to that problem, you can then act toward that.
At the end of the day, it's about getting from point A to point B. Whatever's in the way, get a way around it or through it. Get to your next destination.
It's always a way. Absolutely,
Always
guys.
a way.
Epic stuff right there. We're gonna probably wrap it up around here. Where can people find your work? Like, we'll start with you, Alex. Like, how can people get in touch with you or find some of the stuff you've written?
You know, I don't have a lot of stuff online currently. A lot of what I have is currently documented in Google Docs. I mean, I do post up some of my my other creative works on my Instagram or things that I'm doing with my life.
We'll put your Instagram link in the description.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, and on there, you know, you can see videos of me playing some of my music or instrumentals, as well as, you know, the variety of things I tend to do for enjoyment and employment in my life. But otherwise, I'm planning on self-publishing my chapbook in hopefully the next few weeks. I dedicated this new year to getting this book out, and you know, once it is up, I'm going to have e-files for it. It'll be put up onto my Instagram, and anybody who comes to reach out to me or would like it, I would. Yeah, thank you. You know, I'll make sure that it's available and it will be known to the public, especially through the New Jersey Poetry Renaissance scene and the many events I will continue to attend. So. But yeah, take a look at what I have on my my Instagram. Get a hold of me on Facebook, Alexander Ragsdale. You know, the one and only.
Damn right. All right, Don. Where can people find your work, and how can people get in reach with you if they want more?
Sheesh. I'm at a point where I can confidently say you can Google me at this point. Look, type in Don Krypton. It'll take you directly to my Instagram. That's where I'm most active at. If you want to get my book, it's on Evolu Culture, www.evoluculture.com. All of my work, if anything that I'm doing, my Twitch, I have something I forgot to plug. I do a promotional division type thing called the Black Wrestling Order. It's not all black people. That's just the name of it, but it's actually pretty funny. It's wrestling without the wrestling. It's just promoing and doing hilarious stuff. All of that
I'll
stuff.
Get into that.
The best parts.
Exactly.
I'll get into that.
You guys should mix that with the Fight Club. You should redo the Fight Club.
It'll be hilarious. It'll be various.
Noted.
But for the most part, everything I have, you can go under my link tree. Everything that I do. So link, linktr.ee/Don Krypton. I almost have a full chokehold on the name. So like I said, Google, everything will come up. DonKrypton. You should find me.
All right, we'll have all that. Everybody's stuff. We'll have all that in the link in the. All links will be in the description.
Yeah, guys. If you
right on the top.
You guys, if you have any comments, leave it in the comment section below. Give a kind shout out message, and make sure you guys hit the like button on the video if you have not already, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. All Gains Mindset. If you also want to donate to the channel, you could donate to the Cash App. Link in the description below as well. Support the channel. Money go towards all the equipment for the channel that we use. And it was a great discussion, guys. We're going to see you guys in the next podcast and video.